Hi guys, Thogrey here for a new video, and this video will be a Elemental Shaman PvP guide video for patch 9.2.5 Season 3 of Shadowlands. I'm playing a lot more Elemental these days, and we are going to discuss about a few subjects that you will see in the timestamps below, but you can skip ahead or wait and come back whenever you're online, or if you're watching while cooking, that's also possible because I'm trying to explain it as if you're not watching the video. So we will discuss about gear, stats, legendaries. We will also, of course, care about all legendaries for all game modes, but more specifically for PvP, of course. We'll discuss about talents, which is a short section, but the most important section is PvP talents because Elemental Shaman has a lot to offer for the team, especially depending on the comps that you are playing. And we'll discuss about comps. I'm going to go a bit more in depth about the role that you have as an Elemental Shaman, and yeah, I will try to give you some indication on rotation, although the rotation is pretty simple if you're free casting. If you're not free casting, that's another problem. I feel like it deserves another video to actually show you how to kite, or at least how to survive damage, but we will discuss right away. So we are on my dwarf shaman, so I play dwarf when I'm playing alliance, of course. I like the storm form, defends me from bleeds, nature damage, poisons, but also curses, diseases. You have a lot of options to actually survive damage, especially versus feral druids. They will not kind of kill you whenever they are not stun locking you, and feral druids are not a stun lock machine, so whenever they are going for you and you are able to do storm form, it is pretty much a safe button for you. Every time they are pressing berserk, you can press storm form. So that's out of the way. Let's discuss about stats first. So my stats is still not very optimized, but whenever I'm doing the fleshcraft, I get 61% mastery. We want to have as much mastery as possible. I have 12% haste because my build is not optimized towards mastery, but I feel like a bit of haste cannot go wrong because of hex, because of a lava burst whenever you're needing to cast, or because of your healing surges, for example. Having haste is not that bad, and that's why it also works, because you're playing with Primordial Wave, and it gives you a haste buff whenever you have additional lava bursts generated by Primordial Wave. So if you are in trees and you generate like 3 lava bursts because you have 3 targets with Flame Shock, then you will have 30%. You can even have 40% or even higher if you're also doing it for pets, but it's quite harder to actually have Flame Shock on every target. And that should not be the priority, to have also Flame Shock on every pet possible, except if it's a BM hunter or a survival hunter. I don't feel like there is a lot of value. Or a demonology warlock these days, you can also kill the pets very easily. We play with the Deep Elements legendary, and you see that I'm going for mastery again. I chanted and also have speed gem, which is also nice because you want to have that 15% speed, which gives you more possibilities to kite people, but also to outrun people in general whenever you're going to burst, for example. The legendary, what does it do? Casting Lava Burst has a 7% chance to activate Ascendance for 6 seconds. It procs quite often because you do a lot of lava bursts because of mastery, but also because of your talent, which is echoing shock, but also your primordial wave. So this 7% doesn't really feel as a 7% RNG buff. It does proc often. Sometimes it doesn't proc, sometimes it does proc a lot. So it's still RNG, but whenever you're playing enhancement and you try this legendary as an enhancement, you will see how bad the proc is. But as an elemental shaman, this proc is kind of godlike. I feel like you could maybe make it work as resto, although I feel like Ascendance doesn't really have that much to offer for resto. Yeah, so that's about the legendary. Let's talk real quickly about the tier set. The tier set pretty much gives you a infinite fire elemental. You will not lose your fire elemental except if you're going for an earth elemental, which deletes your fire elemental, or whenever you, yeah, don't cast for a period of time. But it doesn't happen that often because you gain those lava surges because of the 2 set. So while your fire elemental is active, your lava burst deals 20% additional damage, which is nice because it also scales with your ascendant, which increases the crit from the crit damage, so it's 10% crit I have, so it will deal 30% increased damage on lava burst. Also, you gain lava surge every 8 seconds, which makes that you can actually cast a lot of lava burst without really casting the spell. You will have instant lava burst like pretty much all the time, and whenever you don't have an instant lava burst, what you're doing is either free casting lava burst because you are free cast, or you try to kite with frost shock, or you are applying a flame shock again on an enemy, or you do lasso or whatever. You have so much tools, so many tools as elemental shaman that you don't really need to cast a lot of lava burst to do a lot of damage. You just rely on the instant damage, and sometimes you can just burst down someone whenever you're free. It all depends about the comp. Forset, casting lava burst extends the duration of your fire elemental by 1.5 seconds. So this is the thing that makes that the fire elemental will be always up. Sometimes you have your CD back while your fire elemental is still up. So then you can go for earth elemental, apply the wall and do a stun, and then you can go back to a fire elemental since the earth elemental by itself doesn't do enough to actually provide utility to the team. So whenever you go for earth elemental, you can switch back to fire elemental once their abilities has been used, and then you can just go back to a bursting modus with the fire elemental. If your fire elemental is not active, again, it should not happen, but if it's not active, your lava burst has a 20% chance to reduce its remaining cooldown by 10 seconds. So pretty much whenever you don't have the CD and the fire elemental is not on the map, it will come back sooner rather than later. So that's a good thing. Still, with stacking mastery, we'll go for the movement speed gems, of course, whenever you can, and you play with the haste trinket, or you play with the defensive magic trinket to actually provide you defensives component to your class, but I prefer the haste because I like to have a bit of haste, and I also like that RNG from your equip because whenever you're bursting and it procs, it does a lot of damage. Sometimes you can do 15k lava bursts, and one lava burst which is always accompanied to with another lava burst right away. So which is good with elemental shaman is whenever you're casting, you will be sure that you are going to kill targets. And when you are not casting, then you are pretty much on a survival modus, and you know that your warlock friend or your warrior friend or whatever can actually help you to kill targets even though you're not casting. You have a lot of instant burst. So let's talk about legendaries really quickly because I feel like I'm going to forget it once I'm talking about other stuff. I want to do a quick guide, but it's kind of difficult because I want to explain a lot of things. So we are playing with the deeply rooted elements, but you can also play a bunch other legendaries depending on the comp, depending on the needs, depending if it's 2s, 3s, or RBGs. So I'm going to discuss really quickly. Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence is a good legendary for trees and also RBGs, although for trees you will go for deeply rooted probably every time. But whenever you're going for Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence, you can do serious burst in RBGs. It is hard to pull off because you need to cost a lot because you want that Earth Shock to actually proc. To have the Maelstrom for the Earth Shock, you need to cost a lot. So you will need to be safe to actually be free casting, so you need a caster comp in RBGs and not a melee comp, for example. But I find that lava bursts can really hit super high, and you can go for a haste build whenever you're going with the Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. You can also go for mastery build, then you have a lot more lava bursts going out. Also, which is good, they also are scaling with the tier set, so 20% upon 20% upon the possibilities to actually do a lot of damage can actually apply a great burst for lava bursts. You can also go for elemental equilibrium whenever you're playing Kyrian. I would not suggest to do that because Kyrian is kinda cheesy and not really my playstyle, but if you want to do that, you will need this legendary to actually improve the damage of your Kyrian totem, Vesper totem. Deep Tremor Stone I never played because you don't really want an Earth Elemental to be 1 minute uptime. You want to have actually an Earth Elemental use their abilities and switch back to Fire Elemental. And to be honest, the Earthquake doesn't do that much damage, breaks CC, and is not necessary. The Splintered Elements is the legendary that you will always use because you're playing Necrolord. because of the unity. And I'm going to discuss really quickly a legendary, which is a restoration legendary, that if you want to play twos double DPS, I would suggest to play Earth and Harmony, because that will give you the extra healing that you need to actually survive damage, because they are going to train on you or your ally, and you want to be able to heal that target or heal yourself efficiently. It will heal like absurd amounts. Sometimes it can crit for 10k whenever it procs, so damage is nullified, which is very great. And I feel like in twos you are pretty much a support role. You don't want to obliterate people if you're playing double DPS. If you're playing with a healer, then you can go a bit more ballsy with, of course, the deeply rooted elements legendary, or with the Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. You don't want to play Skybreakers anymore. The reason is you have Fire Elemental uptime like all the time. So you will not have a case where you don't have a Fire Elemental up, and if it does, then really you did screw up in that match, and you should just requeue probably. If it's in twos, in threes especially, I feel like you have a lot of uptime because they are not going for you most of the time. So those are the legendaries. Of course, always depends on preference. If you want to play with haste or mastery or crit, if you're playing Vesper Totem, those are the legendaries that you want to have. Now let's talk about talents really quickly. It's already 11 minutes, unfortunately. Echo of the Elements is the go-to talent. You pick nothing else because you want those two charges. I feel it's stupid that it is actually a talent, but it is a talent. I hope they will remove it. Probably in Dragonflight they will just put it in a talent which is quite high on the rows, probably. Probably on the class talent and not on the spec talent. But this should not be a Shadowlands talent. Anyways, you pick that, you auto-log that, and you forgot about it. Echoing Shock is the talent that you will go for because you want to have a lot of lava burst procs. There is nothing else to say. It's a 30-second CD and it's a 30-second big burst CD, because whenever you're doing Echoing Shock, you're going to do a lot of lava burst, which gives you a lot more chance to have your ascendance, which gives you also a lot more chance to kill targets, because whenever the Ascendance procs and you do a lot of lava bursts, that guy will not survive if he has like 50% HP because of the innate burst that you can have before it. So you can do just Primordial Wave, Echoing Shock, Lava Burst, and pretty much that guy is probably going to die if he has no healer. If he has a healer, then the healer will just try to pop CDs to actually compensate the damage that you are going to do. I often play Earth Shield. This is probably one of the most interesting row because you have Spirit Wolf too. But Earth Shield is pretty much a go-to talent for me 90% of the time, especially in trees. In twos, I might maybe play Spirit Wolf if I'm playing with a healer. But in trees, Earth Shield most of the time, all the time actually. It increases healing done. It's also very nice for the proc. Low mana. Really, I think you can just do Earth Shield on your friend, and then you can go Lightning Shield to improve your Maelstrom regeneration whenever they are going for you. And whenever you see that you are in problems, you do Earth Shield on yourself. You try to heal and survive as much damage as possible. Under 35 row, you play Master of the Elements all the time because it improves your nature damage every time you do Lava Burst, which improves your Earth Shock, but also your Lightning Lasso. Also improves Echoing Shock, although I think Echoing Shock is not really the one that you want to improve with Master of the Elements. And yeah, you can do pretty much great bursts with it. And if you need to actually weave in those Lava Burst, Earth Shock, Lava Burst, Lightning Lasso, for example. You can also do a Lightning Bolt, although I feel like in this meta you don't really have time to actually cast Lightning Bolt. On the 14 row you play Nature's Guardian, but if you're playing versus a priest and it's twos, don't risk it. Just play Ancestral Guidance because you don't want to make it proc with Mind Games if they're playing Mind Games. Often than not, they don't play Mind Games these days. They play Kyrian or they play Night Fae. But whenever they play Venthyr and you have Nature's Guardian, you are pretty much the kill target and you will die somehow, some way because of Mind Games. So just go for Ancestral Guidance versus those priests at least. On the 45 road, you have two interesting talents. I'm going to discuss more in depth on probably on next video, but Primal Elementalist is the go-to talent 80% of the time, 90% of the time. And Surge of Power is interesting because you can do Earth Shock and then you can do Frost Shock, which is then roots the target, which gives you amp time to actually run away from the target. You can also Lightning Bolt, I guess, for the Elemental Overloads, which gives you unlimited power. But I feel like it's a bit greedy, which is good without the Primal Elementalist. You can have the Fire Elemental and the Earth Elemental up on the field, but you will have no stun from the Earth Elemental, but you also will have no wall from the Elemental. So from the Earth Elemental. So I feel you are going to be more squishy. But if they're not going for you, you can go for Surge of Power, which gives you in fine a good roots that you can actually spam most of the time with Earth Shock. So yeah, I feel like you have some choices to make here. Ice Fury is kind of hard to actually utilize, although the damage from Frost Arc is quite nice. I feel like you need a lot of haste to make it work because again you want to have as fast as the cast possible, and 1.8 second cast feels very long in Shadowlands, although in vanilla I feel like 1.8 second cast is very fast. In Shadowlands it is very slow, so because the high pace of the game is very high at this very moment, you want to cast as much possible. Unlimited power is the build that you want to go for because you don't have haste built in when you want to have mastery. This will give you the haste to actually apply more flame shocks, apply more dot damage, apply more lava surges from this. Control the lava from PvP, or control of lava because of the PvP talent will also give you more flame shock dot damage, but also give you more lava surges, which is very nice. Stormkeepers is also an option if you really miss Stormkeepers, although I feel like unlimited power is the go-to talent for this build. If you're playing like Kyrian, for example, you would go for Stormkeeper. PvP talents now. The PvP talents is the most important thing for Elemental Shaman. Like with Warrior, the video that I've made for Arms Warrior, Elemental Shaman has been shaped around PvP talents. You don't want to auto-lock Lightning Lasso, Control of Lava, and Sky Fury Totem. You want to be flexible because you want to think what is going to make you win the match. If you're playing on Blade's Edge, you can go for Traveling Storms. If they are going for you, you can just push them back, especially versus melee. Versus ranged casters, it is really not needed, but if you're playing versus melees, Traveling Storms is actually very good because you will push them every 30 seconds. You can also push them from your Affliction Warlock, so you don't really need to be in melee form to actually be useful and have huge utility. And on that specific map, I feel like it is a win condition. Whenever you're pushing a enemy out, like for example a Retribution Paladin, that guy is going to run up all the way back to you, and it's very hard to actually go back as a Retribution Paladin on the target. Versus a Fury Warrior or a Outlaw Rogue or a Rogue in general with Shadow Step, it's a bit more hard, but you can still make it work because sometimes people don't notice whenever they are going to get pushed, especially if you're doing it from an ally, because now it is castable on an ally within 40 yards. So it's really a good PvP talent. I'm going to go over all the PvP talents very quick. I'm going to say what's worth to take, what's not worth to take, whenever you need to take it. Actually, I think the whole video is built upon the PvP talent section because I want you guys to be successful with your Elemental Shaman. And I see a lot of Elemental Shamans actually just auto-lock Grounding Totem or auto-lock Sky Fury Totem for the damage. Or sometimes they go for, I don't know, static field totem whenever they're playing versus casters, which is not needed, for example, whenever you're playing a caster cleave. So I'm going to discuss it really fast and in depth. So static field totem, it is a totem which makes that people cannot leave the section from the totem except if they are killing the totem. The killing totem part is very easy for the melees, but those seconds that is actually given for your ranged class or your allies to actually flee the battlefield is very, very important, because that can give you enough time to heal your allies, or actually give enough damage to the enemy team to actually make them panic and go away. So static field totem, I mostly play it versus melees. I feel like grounding totem is not needed in that situation, and I don't really need the Sky Fury totem to do a lot of damage. Also, Sky Fury totem, if you're playing with an affliction warlock, you just don't play that because you are kind of selfish. They don't rely on crits. You should not rely on crits, except from lava burst, of course. So you will not go for Sky Fury totem versus melees. For melees, always static field totem. If you're playing on Blade's Edge, I would go for Traveling Storm, which I did already discuss the utility from it. Of course, don't play it in maps like, I don't know, Dalaran Arena, or even the sewers. I don't feel like it's super good. Blade's Edge is pretty much the go-to Traveling Storms PvP talent whenever you're playing versus melees. Spectral Recovery, it is not interesting to play because you will not go Ghost Wolf all the time. You want to have huge value to actually make it worth, but for now, you're not playing a Spirit Wolf, Ghost Wolf build, so don't play with Spectral Recovery. Sky Fury Totem, I would play it if I'm playing with a Destruction Warlock, and I feel like melees are not the problem in that matchup. Most of the time, they are a problem, that's why I'm playing with Static Field Totem, or I sacrifice Lightning Lasso for Sky Fury Totem for my Destruction Warlock if really I don't need a stun to keep them out of their targets, for example. So, Sky Fury Totem, everyone knows how it works. Worth it or not depends on you, but if you're playing with an Affliction Warlock, don't play with Sky Fury Totem. I would say if you're playing with a Warrior, you should not really play with a Sky Fury Totem. So it all depends. If you're playing with an Outlaw Rogue, you don't play with Sky Fury Totem. So it's very specific. Counter-Strike Totem, never play it in trees, please. It doesn't prevent damage. People just go through and kill you, or they destroy the totem in an instant. And often than not, the healer will do that, so you will have no value in actually kiting the targets. Unleash Shield, I actually played a lot. I feel like it's a very niche PvP talent, very good if you're in playing twos versus Demon Hunters. You can actually root the Demon Hunter most of the time. You can go also be doing very nasty shit, like for example, Earth Shields root the ranged and then go burst on him because he has no escape. And often than not, a ranged class that is actually getting burst by your mate and you in open fields, they will not survive the damage. So this one is also very good. Also, the lightning shield, the knockback is very good. It does knockback very far, and some people will just not notice it, and then they will charge back. They have a little DR for the thunderstorms, so try to not do that. You can just push the healer away, for example, and then thunderstorm the melee, and then they have like a huge space between them, and you can then like go nuts on the healer or go nuts on the DPS. Or you can push the healer back. You can push the warrior back with thunderstorm, hex the healer, and then go for the DPS, and pretty much it is a kill condition, a win condition that you can have with your team. Grounding Totem, I would play it versus dot cleaves, like for example Shadow Priest Warlock, like Shadow Play. I would play it versus Frost Mages, for example, sometimes. It's not an autolock because it always depends on the partner that you're playing with and also the enemies that you're playing against. Sometimes they have only one caster. Is it really worth it to stop that one caster with Grounding Totem, or is it preferable to go for Lightning Lasso and Static Field Totem to actually peel that melee off and have a kill target like most of the time? So it's very hard to decide if you are going to autolock most of the time. But Grounding Totem, if you feel like you have a huge value on it, please play it and have fun with it. Swelling Waves. Don't play it as an elemental shaman. I feel like you don't really have value. Seasoned Winds. I play it versus Destruction Warlock. I play it versus Balanced Druids because I like to actually use that on Convoke. I play it versus a Demonology Warlock because Hands of Gul'dan is a great tool to actually reduce the spell damage done by the demons, but also by the demonology. So I feel like it's also a good. Actually, this talent you played most of the time versus warlocks because warlocks have specific use on their spells. Like for example, if you're casting it like wind shear on a destruction warlock casting a chaos bolt, you're pretty much safe. You have like a wall of 15% versus all spells, so it's actually very good. Versus Frost Mage, maybe you could play that, although I feel like I have an easier time versus Frost Mages to actually purge them, kill them, wind shear them whenever needed, then Lightning Lasso, then stun them with the Capacitated Totem. You have huge possibilities to be annoying versus them, so I feel like Season 2 Winds is the best thing that you can play with versus a Destruction Warlock, for example. So that is the talent section. I'm going to talk really quickly about comps. You will see more examples of those comps in future videos, so please subscribe to the channel if you want to have more examples for Elemental Shaman and how to actually improve your Elemental Shaman gameplay and how to actually level up your gameplay in a whole. So comps wise, you can play LSD, which is Lock, Shaman, and Druid, but you also can play with a Priest, you can play with a Holy Paladin, that doesn't matter. Lock and Shaman has huge possibilities to actually be annoying for the enemy team. It's also a very tanky comp. Of course, Affliction is not tanky, so that's why you need to actually peel those targets often from the Affliction Warlock. But whenever they are going for you, the Affliction Warlock will just go nuts, so they will just always go for Affliction Warlock. You can play with Thundercleave, one of my most favorite comps. You can also see on my comp video that I've made, like top 5 most fun comps in Shadowlands. And actually, you can see Thundercleave being very high. I think it's a very fun comp for Elemental Shaman because it is a very fast-paced comp. If you're going to kill someone, you're going to kill them in the opener, in the mid of the match, or even at the end of the match with dampening. You have huge burst. You have also the possibility to get peels from your warrior. You have a fear from the warrior, then you can hex them off. You can actually be super annoying for them, but also peel your warrior with heals, with your totems, with the damage that you can do, with Frost Shock. A lot of possibilities. You can play with a Shadow Priest. You can also play with a Boomy if you want to. You have a lot of comps. I would say Elemental Shaman is one of the few specs that can play with any and every class. I would not play with a Retribution Paladin, of course, but if you want to play with a Windwalker, it's the same principle as a Warrior, but a bit more, yeah, explosive, I would say. You can play with a Demon Hunter, then, yeah, it is a boomy DH comp, but you can play with a resto druid, for example, and you will be the elemental shaman. You have a lot of possibilities. You can also play with all casters. If you want to play with a mage, you can do that, although I don't think it's the best comp that you can play. You can also play with an outlaw rogue, then it's very tanky, very bursty, very CC-ish, I would say. But my favorite comp is still LSD, and it will always be LSD with my lock and with my shaman. And I feel like if you know how to play LSD, you can go high on the ranks. These days I'm training LSD with a new warlock friend that actually has 0 CR, so I'm not winning a lot of CR whenever I win, and I lose a lot of CR whenever I lose. But that's alright because I want to train with people that actually can improve that comp and improve the state of the arena ladder, I would say. So, rotation-wise, I'm going to discuss really quickly, and then I'm going to discuss about how to peel as much as possible as an elemental shaman. So, rotation-wise, you want to have a lot of flame shocks on every target. You're jumping around. Okay, you have all your flame shocks. You put your fire elemental, and then you begin your burst. And then you go for a echoing shock, and then you can just go for earth shocks, lava burst. You can see I have like 10k DPS, and not the dots doesn't do a lot of things for me, but at least you have the possibility to CC with your lightning lasso. You also have a lot of possibilities to actually burst with your lava burst. And yeah, control of lava is also very nasty. Makes them hard to dispel your flame shocks. And whenever they do, because you are playing with affliction warlock, for example, then you have like a kill target extra to actually burst on those nasty healers. Like, that's a win condition. Whenever they are dispelling and they are 50% HP, you can just turn your gaze onto the healer. You do a flame shock, lava burst, lightning lasso. The warlock will just do his thing to kill him, and then you have a lava burst extra. You can go for a primordial wave, echoing shock, and then lava burst again. And you see, like, you have constant bursts. And whenever you proc your legendary, that's where you're going to like destroy people, you know. And yeah, I feel like you can also use your meteor from your elemental shaman to do a lot more burst damage whenever you're going for a lightning lasso. And what is good about lightning lasso is it is a 30-second CD and the DR is 30 seconds, so you can just do a full stun again whenever you have your lightning lasso up. And you have also huge kiting possibilities with it. So how to actually peel the targets from your affliction warlock. The video is very long, so I'm going to be very short. You have hex to actually be very nasty for the DPS. If they are playing with a shaman or with a mage, it's preferable to actually hex the target that can dispel the hex. So if you're playing versus a fire mage, like a RMP for example, use your hex on the mage, not on the priest, because if you're doing on the priest, it will get dispelled. If you're playing versus a, I don't know, you're playing versus a resto shaman, like a TSG for example, or you're playing versus a ritual and they have a resto shaman, just cast a hex on a DPS, but you know that it will get dispelled, or you go for the resto shaman and then they will need to play defensive and they cannot burst like mindlessly on your friends, for example. So just try to kite and to actually be useful on your CDs, and try to actually use your totem wisely. Like Earthbind totem is very good just to run away. You can just go Ghost Wolf. You are not snareable because you have like 100% movement speed all the time, and then they are slowed because of Frost Shock or because of Earthbind. You can also just Lightning Lasso and just run away. You can also hex the target. You can also Astra Shift, pre-Astra Shift whenever they are going to switch on you. You can go for the Lightning Shield to get to have Maelstrom regeneration, which gives you more damage. And whenever you have like, your Ascendance proc, like right now, you can go burst with your Fire Elemental and your Echoing Shock, and to do like really nasty damage. Now we're waiting for the lava surges, and then you have like huge damage potential. So I don't know if you did understand the last section about rotation, but yeah, I feel like the elemental shaman, the class by itself, is a very good class to actually begin with arenas if you're playing a caster. Especially for Dragonflight, I feel like shamans will have a lot of tools. So if you want to train shamans for Dragonflight, I would then recommend to play elemental right now. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something. I will make a lot more videos like in depth about arenas, so whenever I'm playing and I feel like there is a portion that I can use for the video, I will make it, and I will try to make it as fast as possible. I want to make a lock shaman druid comp guide, so it means with gameplay, what you need to do, what you don't need to do, what you want to prioritize whenever you're playing versus a melee cleave or versus a caster cleave or versus a hybrid comp, like for example a thunder cleave or a DH affliction or DH boomy or DH demonology. Then you have a lot more tools, a lot more ways to actually go around and be useful and successful for your comp. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you like those kinds of content for PvP, so guides, but also tips and tricks, gameplay. I will try to make montage videos if I have time. I really want to do it, like old school montage videos for my classes that I actually play. I make a lot of guides these days, but I want to actually concentrate on one character and make a lot of videos on that one character, which will probably be Elemental Shaman. I play a lot of Hunter these days too, but I feel like I need to make more knowledge about Hunters to actually make videos about. So thank you for watching. Like the video if you like the video, comment below what you think about the video, and be sure to be safe. We will see each other very soon. Bye.